All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next panel discussion, the gentlemen are ready to deliver the next panel discussion with the topic of big changes coming to performance advertising in 2017. I'd like to request the presence of Mr. Colin Miles from Minimob, and Mr. Jakob Knutzen from Lion & Lion, Mr. Krishnadeep Baruah from BBM, and Martinus Faisal from Adscom, as well as Pankaj Khushani from Google to join me on stage, please. This session will be moderated by Mr. Colin Miles himself. So big round of applause for our panelists and moderator for this session. The stage is yours.
Hello. Nice to be here. We have a great panel for you today. We're going to talk about performance. The trouble is, in performance is, you've got to perform. So we absolutely, positively are looking for the best performance from each and every one of these guys today. And all of you are going to mark them on what they've done, how they've done it, and hopefully they will have given you something to take away from this conference, which is extremely useful. My name is Colin, and I work for a company called Minimob, and we are specifically working in app marketing. So we do focus entirely on the app ecosystem, and we are a performance-based platform, so we only deal with results and performance, and that's all I ever like to talk about, and hopefully all these guys are going to talk about as we go through the discussion today. I'm also chairman of Mobile Monday in Singapore. I'm president of the Mobile Alliance in Singapore, and I'm chair emeritus of the Mobile Ecosystem Forum Asia. So I spend a lot of time at conferences, and most often I like to be down in the audience. So you'll forgive me if I come down and hang out with you guys while these guys are answering questions. But we'll start by giving some questions and a chance for them to introduce themselves. Why are we here? Why are we here? Mobile apps. 90 billion mobile apps downloaded last year. Whichever way you look at the numbers, whichever way you look at the business, whichever way you look at the technology, mobile apps are ruling most of the smartphone world. Survey came out this morning from the US saying that there will be 6 billion smartphones by 2020. Confirmed, 6 billion smartphones. People wondered what the number would be. This is the platform for marketers to sell to advertise to create a relationship through. It's really, really critical. The mobile web in Indonesia is equally important. A lot of people still use mobile web. We might touch on that later. The industry has changed quite a lot in the last few years, and performance itself, I'm sure all of you read Wikipedia before this particular panel to find out what the definition of performance advertising is, seems a little bit outdated. So we're going to talk about what are the big changes coming in 2017. That's this year, yeah. So big changes on the way. I'm going to give a chance for each of the panelists to introduce themselves and give me one key performance campaign that they might want to talk about, that they have done in 2016, and then we'll refer back to that at the end of the panel and see what we think the next performance campaign will be by the end of 2017. So, KD from BBM, we'll let you have the first crack.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. Good afternoon, everyone. Very happy to be here. Always Jakarta buzzing. My name is KD. I run BBM's business for Asia Pacific, based out of Singapore. Indonesia is the largest market, so I do spend a lot of time here. Quickly to your question on performance advertising, I think one of the recent campaigns that comes to mind is actually unusual because we are an in-app advertising platform. But because we are a chat platform, we do have products like digital goods. So stickers is actually something which is relatively new. And one of the things we tried recently was to have a click to action on stickers. And we ran a campaign with one of the large CPG companies here. We ran a sticker set for them, around 10 stickers across 4 weeks, and we actually saw around 45 million shares of those stickers, right? Which is just amazing in a 4 weeks period. And we probably saw close to around 2.5 million clicks to the website. So you generally associate sticker with, driving awareness or, just engaging in terms of expressions. But it was a really interesting performance campaign that comes to mind.
That was mostly Indonesia and a bit of Middle East.
It's entirely Indonesia.
Entirely Indonesia. 45 million actions following a sticker. Interesting. Faisal.
Hello. Hi, selamat siang. My name is Faisal. I'm doing the operation thing in Adscom. So Adscom, it's basically we are more focused on the programmatic ecosystem. I'm not sure you guys, all of you is familiar with the programmatic things, but so we are doing display advertising for performance, something like that. So based on my experience, so we starting developing an inventory platform for the publishers, and right now the inventory it's been used by one of the biggest advertiser in Indonesia. So, and this advertiser is more on the FMCG industry. The other things that Adscom do, we are also providing our client mostly the e-commerce. So I mean that based on this experience, we have two types when we're talking about performance. The performance, it's not only mean about conversion things, but if the advertiser is looking for some awareness campaign, so it's also we need to have something to measure on that part. So yeah, I mean that performance is not about action, but it's will become more broader, I think. So yeah, that's from me.
Okay, good start. Jakob?
Hi all. I'm Jakob from Lion. I'm the managing director here in Indonesia. So Lion is a full-service digital agency, meaning we do everything from, of course, performance marketing to social media content, to creative tech development, CRM. So we've been in Indonesia here for around a little over 2 years, and I'm managing a number of larger clients here. So back to your question, Colin, on a particular case of good performance in 2016 for a performance marketing client. I think I would take one of our clients in the APAC region, where we started out at the beginning of January last year. So we are big believers of the fact that the old-fashioned ways of doing performance marketing fees for an agency of just taking X% of spend and just running with it is not the way to be doing things. So we set up we set up our deal with this client based on ROI, or cost revenue ratio, where we had a tiered structure of fees. So we managed to drive a cost revenue ratio from around 0.8, 0.9 in the beginning of the year, all the way down to around 0.25 by the end of the year, while still increasing spend by around 5x for this e-commerce company, which was quite interesting, especially because driving a higher ROI while increasing spend is normally a very difficult position to do. So I think that was one of the better examples of performance marketing last year.
Okay. Pankaj, does Google have a love-hate relationship with performance?
Yeah, you can call it, yes. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pankaj Khushani. I'm responsible for managing Google's DoubleClick ad exchange business for Southeast Asia, India, and Korea. There are many performance campaigns. I won't just call out one, because that may swing your decision. There are so many things which happen. So in general, what I would say is one of the things we as an organization are a lot more focused on are around the data, the kind of the people, the kind of the entire attribution around it. So long you can get that particular thing right, whatever product you may be selling, whatever leads you may be trying to do, or whatever you may be trying to do from your app's perspective, so long you have the UI correct, so long you know your users, so long you know what are the demographics, so long you know your location, I think it's very easily doable. And that's something we see in our business every day with thousands and hundreds of thousands of apps. So happy to talk about more later during this panel.
Okay, and of course we're more than happy to get questions from the audience as issues arise. Anything burning, you wave your hand in the air and we'll find you. We'll be very happy to entertain your question. For the broad picture, I do read a lot of blogs, and I read a very interesting blog in prepping for this panel, but it had a very simple formula at the end of it. I guess the guy was slightly biased. I'm going to say, bottom line, brand marketing equals wasting money. Performance marketing equals minting money. Minting money, making money. Brand marketing, wasting money. Performance marketing, minting money. Do you agree with that point? Pankaj, you got the mic.
I completely disapprove. I think these are completely two different things. Specifically, with the programmatic, we've been talking about a lot, and within programmatic now, we are also talking about mobile video and household targeted ads, which are talking a lot about brand. I think it all depends on what story are you really trying to convey, and there are time and again multiple proven models where it says spending on brand ultimately lifts the sales or whatever you're trying to achieve. So I think these are purely two different things or objectives which you're trying to achieve. Of course, there is direct measurable result where you see in performance marketing where you as a business want to really purely focus on performance, but there are certain players whose linkage is indirect, a lot of CPG companies, a lot of other players, a lot of auto brands. So I think these two are completely different things. I won't mix them at all. If you're looking at ROI, doing performance, and whether it's app download or app engagement, as I'll go back again on think about UI, understand your user. That's the way I would look at it.
Jakob, strong opinion?
Yeah, I quite agree on a lot of the points. I think it's important to kind of distinguish. Of course, there's a difference between running a e-commerce performance marketing campaign as opposed to a brand building campaign. But the important thing is here that you don't focus on just the input KPIs. I mean, don't look at just impressions when you're looking at the brand campaigns, right? Don't just look at views. Look at the actual outcomes, and there, I mean, just to your point, try running some of the brand uplift surveys. Look at what you're actually trying to achieve with the campaign. I think, especially in the past year, referring to some of the changes that we'll see from 2016 to 2017. I mean, we had you could almost call it a scandal with Facebook overestimating views significantly back in, was it October or November? For a lot of different campaigns that they are running, and I mean all of these things are input factors. I mean they were exaggerating a number of different things. I think going forward we'll be seeing a much higher degree of control, also both is in the interest of the publishers themselves on what the actual input KPIs are in reality, some third-party verification. And we'll see a much higher focus on the output factors, so things you can actually verify, such as the brand uplift, or in the terms of performance campaigns on sales.
Yeah, I have a quote from, you mentioned Facebook, Mark Darcy from Facebook, says, tomorrow's best brand marketers are doing performance today. And the question is, why isn't everyone using platforms that combine performance-based targeting with beautiful, personalized creative for results that can be measured in seconds? Is that where we're going? Is that what we've got this year? Faisal, can you do it? Can your platform do it? The beautiful, creative, and the real-time measurement in seconds.
So I think I'm also interested to answer the previous questions. I mean that I'm not agree that the performance is making money. It's true that performance mostly being used by, for example, what I'm doing, it's from the e-commerce side. So why it's said that performance is making money? Because you can measure it directly. It's online to online, okay? But what I see also on the branding campaign, it's not that you are not measuring the performance also. I mean that the important part of the branding, it's if it's digital, for me, it's just another media compared to like TVC or billboard or radio, okay? It's how do you reach the audience. I mean that if you want to reach the millennial, mostly you need to use the digital, okay? But the most important for branding campaign, it's how to build the top of mind on your targeted audience. And when you're doing that, I mean that if you're not doing the brand campaign on the digital, it's mean that you probably will lose the opportunity to reach your targeted audience, especially for the millennial generations. But in the things, so I'm not agree that the branding campaign is wasting money. It's not. It's you are building, you are investing something. Okay. So and for the second question, sorry, can you repeat it again?
Well, can you build platforms which do both simultaneously, brand and performance?
Branding and performance.
Real time. Both of those deep, rich content experiences, emotive advertisements, but measuring a real-time transaction.
It's really a different metrics to measure between the performance that you're expecting to do some conversions and the performance when you're talking about branding. It's really a different measurement. When you measure for the performance, it's more easy. I mean, for the performance for the conversions, it's more easy because amount of budget that you spend, how many sales that you get. But when you're talking about the branding, I think it's more on the how the ads it's been seen by the specific targeted user, by the specific audience. Usually, brand using the demographic, right? So it's not like we can combine the platform, but it's more on it's a different measurement. You need to understand that.
Okay. KD, you're doing a lot of brand stuff as well, real time?
Yeah, actually it's both, Colin. So, it's a great question, by the way, and it's come from the audience. It's obviously come from the advertiser, and I think it reflects the sentiment of a lot of advertisers. I think from our perspective, look, when you look at a customer's buying journey or buying cycle, they go through different phases, right? So I don't think it's a question of, whether you look at brand versus performance. I think it depends on where a particular advertiser is in terms of market penetration, brand recall, and brand awareness in that market. So there are different objectives, on the brand funnel. And I think marketers have to be very, very wary of that. We've made that mistake as well in a number of markets, not Indonesia. We've tried to grow in markets where we didn't have strong presence. And one of the things we did was we just said, let's go and just get installs going in that market without really trying to build the value of what we stand for. And guess what? Performance marketing works great. We get app downloads, people download, but they would just delete it after a few days or a few weeks. And that doesn't serve any purpose. Versus that, we've now gone into some of these smaller, newer markets, and we're saying, how do we build up the proposition of the platform first, and then really go into, driving more of performance campaigns. So again, it's very different for different markets. Also, I think, we need to be careful about how we define brand and performance. At the end of the day, any campaign that you run has to have some kind of user interaction or action, right? So even if it's just a brand campaign where you're trying to drive awareness, there is a measure of viewability and impression, which really is dependent on the user taking some action, whether he's scrolling an in-app ad or he's reading a particular banner ad. So I think there is performance involved in brand advertising as well. It's just how you define it. But I think coming back to the question, look, I don't think it's an either or. It's dependent on A, the market penetration, and B, it depends on your KPI.
Okay, Pankaj, I recall that Google had a push with a universal platform where you could follow YouTube and then watch the actions and the post actions. There was a kind of big session on that 6 months ago, 8 months ago. Is that still trying to be linked together, the rich media and the performance metrics?
I'm having difficulty hearing. I'm not sure what, because our previous panelist also said there is some echo which is coming on stage. So if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'll repeat the question. Google had a push on what they call a universal metric, universal pattern monitoring
Universal app
system.
campaign, is that what you're talking about?
So you could watch YouTube and then you could follow someone right until the point they actually did something, and that's a metric that they would share. So I was just wondering how far you'd got on that rich content experience to performance metrics process.
Yeah, so, like the other panelists said, and picking up on my previous point, so we have various campaigns which continuously are going on YouTube, and as I said previously, there are various tools and various mechanisms which talk about the amount of money you've spent on branding and what's the direct impact on your sales. There are available tools, and we also measure it not immediately. There are tools which you can measure depending on the campaign you ran, let's say for about a month on YouTube. What's the follow-up effect on the net sales after 6 months? What's the conversion from online to offline? How is the user behavior, like KD had talked about, how the consumer journey. So there are various tools and there are various studies and there are numerous thousands of examples which we continuously share with all the customers across the globe on how these two things go hand in hand. And I'm happy to talk offline. Unfortunately, I don't think so we have enough time
Sure.
to talk more in
We can
detail.
see the clock ticking down. Any questions from the audience at this point? No? No questions. Okay, not to worry. In terms of our big question, the changes coming to performance advertising, was 2016 the year of ad tech, and is 2017 the year of MarTech? And who would like to explain that first?
I guess I can have a go. So I think for ad tech and martech, first of all, I guess a lot of people in the industry are mixing things up a bit in terms of the ad tech and the martech, right? With if you take a basic definition, it's more coming. Ad tech is more about the actual buying and placement of ads, whereas martech is more about the management of current consumers or current users and being able to market to those guys. And I think one thing, so about whether 2016 was a year of ad tech or martech, I think in many ways both. I think we're kind of in a mid-generation for ad tech and martech, where we've gone through the initial movements. We've seen massive movements in programmatic buying. We've seen big movements in CRM and marketing automation, but we're still not at an AI level where you have machine learning being able to acquire exactly the audiences that you want to acquire. So taking a step back and talking about what is it that we really want to do. I mean, a lot of digital marketeers tend to forget the very basics of marketing, which is, we're trying to hit the right consumer at the right place with the right price, right? And catching them, as you mentioned before, KB, in the consumer journey, or the right step in the consumer journey. And what I think will happen, maybe not in 2017, but at least in maybe 5 years from now, is a merge of ad tech and martech, where you will see, regardless of whether it's one of your current users or not, or current consumers or not, or a future consumer, you hit a person in the moment where they are considering buying a product or that are similar to yours. That's I think is what we'll see, and the main driver there will be machine learning.
Okay, just a quick question on data. I mean, Singapore now enforces a data protection officer. Every company must have a data protection officer, someone mandated to take care of the data. Data privacy and performance, I mean, data makes performance powerful. Is that a big change coming that could be an issue? Faisal.
So, everybody it's talking about the data, and the data function it's will be different for each advertiser that's using it. So based on my experience, the data itself, it's not like a magic one that if you target an audience, a data, then your campaign will be great. It's not something like that. It's not the whole ecosystem to support it. I mean that if you're talking about the ad tech perspective, ad tech in my perspective, it's more on the paid advertising. It means that you need to have the data, the audience. You need to have the ability to reach it on real time. You need to have the recommendation engine to give the specific creative to that person. And you need dynamic creative optimization to do the optimize of the creative. So you need the whole ecosystem to make it happen.
Okay.
But when we're talking the data in terms of the MarTech,
Yeah.
I'm quite agree that MarTech, it's more the engagement.
Yeah.
Many brand now, it's like try to define and to collect the data. It's just trying it. They still on really early stage on learning how to collect the data. But how they approach, it's more on using, in my perspective for MarTech, it's the own marketing. I mean that they need to have the email, they need to have to the MSCSDN numbers, and then they can like re-reach again that persons to give a specific offering to them.
Okay.
So yeah, the data itself, it's not like the magic one. You need to have a lot of learning from it.
Okay. I'm going to give the last word to KD, BBM in Indonesia. Obviously, a big impact. You've got 30 seconds to cover that topic and tell us big change.
Yeah, sure. So Colin, I just had a couple of points there saying, when you look at data, why is the data protection issue becoming such a big discussion point today? And I think it's because what's happened over the years is advertising has cluttered the consumer. And because advertising has cluttered the consumer, what's happening is people are looking more at targeting and retargeting. And the moment you do that, you actually pull out a lot of data, right? So that's how it's evolved, and I think that's just going to grow. So the concerns around data protection from a consumer perspective will only grow over the next few years. What's interesting is, let's look at the trends. If you look at the last 2016 and you look at the US market, there have actually been two very important laws that's been passed around data protection. The first is around ISPs and the data they share with the end user. The second is for advertising platforms, even the device IDs, that you have of customers is coming under data protection law in the US. It hasn't hit us in this part of the world, but I think that's a good trend to look at, and for advertisers to start thinking about how they would work around some of those laws that are starting to come in other parts of the world.
All right, cool. We are out of time. I think we could have talked for another half an hour on the topic, but we appreciate you listening and staying with us. And I'd like to thank our panelists, obviously Pankaj from Google, Jakob Line and Line, Faisal Adscom, KD from BBM. Thank you very much indeed.
Gentlemen, can we have a group photo, please? Thank you so much, Colin. Miles, data protection definitely is the key and the underlying point to our particular panel discussion this time. I'd like to invite either Venkatesh or Mangalam to present the token of appreciation for our list.